In this section, we're going to create the animation of our character Orville. The project file that I have opened is one that we started off with when designing our character Orville. So at this point, you should have two separate project files, one for your character and the other for your background. We will then combine the two after we have finished the animation in this file. In order to create this animation, there are a few key things we need to set up first. Go to File, Project Settings, set your width to 1080p or 720p for a standard HD video. Ensure your frame rate is set to 24 and your end frame is set to frame 55. Check all the other settings on your screen and make sure that they match mine, then hit OK. Next, go up to the animation menu and make sure your settings are set to what I have on screen. One important one to have on is allow frame skipping. With this enabled, you'll be able to play back your animation in real time. When working on large projects, depending on the computer you are using, the playback can be affected or slowed down depending on how heavy the animation is. So this is always good to have on. The next important one to have checked on is the auto freeze keyframes. When auto freeze keyframes is enabled, all bones in a character will get a keyframe when any part is adjusted. This is very helpful when you're animating a character or object and you want to ensure that poses are in a specific state in certain frames in your animation. Next, go to the animation timeline and make sure that your timeline also matches mine. I am also going to zoom in on my timeline, which makes it easier to select and move keyframes by clicking this icon here. The first thing that we're going to do is create our 6 key positions of our character: standing, crouching, lift, air, fall, landing, and then back to standing again. The method that we'll be using to do this is very common in the animation industry, and that is the technique called blocking. This helps us to first create our characters using the principle of animation called pose to pose. So to do this, go to frame 1, use the manipulate bones tool, and move the 2 target bones underneath the character to first create our standing position. Next, go to frame 2, and using the manipulate bones tool, move the character down to crouching position just before he jumps. By left-clicking and dragging down the root bone, hold shift to constrain the vertical movement. Right now I have a pop happening on the leg that may be caused by the target bone. To fix this, it's very simple. Select the transform bone tool and select the ankle bone and click and drag to the left or right to pop back into place. Set up the rest of the character either how I have it or however you would like to have him look in this position. Next, go to frame 3 and using the manipulate bones tool, move his body up a head's length so the tip of his foot is the only part touching the ground. Move his arms in front of his body so our character appears to be using the motion of his arms to help propel him into the air. Go to frame 4 and move his body slightly higher. Using the manipulate bones tool, move his feet up underneath of our character. Frame 5, we now want the character to fall back down. The best way we want to do this is by doing the opposite of what we did on frame 3. So I'm going to stretch his leg out so the tip of his foot is touching the ground. I want to make this animation a little more interesting by making the character pushing off with one foot and land first with the other. I'm also going to move his arms up slightly. Next, we want to create our landing pose on frame 6. This is when all the weight of the character is coming down and he will be in his lowest position. In this position, his arms are going to be following his body, so they still have not come down, whereas the rest of the body and weight has. And last, we want to loop this animation, so we will copy and paste the keyframes from 1 onto frame 7. So now in order to visually see your poses in the timeline, let's go ahead and change the color of those keyframes we have created to green. Select all the keyframes, right-click, and select Label, then select the color green. Now these poses are going to give us a rough idea of what we want our character to do. At this stage, just try and visualize what your animation will look like. I like to use the technique used for traditional animation called flipping. To flip in Moho, just use your left and right arrows on your keyboard. Once you're happy with the poses, let's go ahead and move on to the next video. Want to learn how to be a better animator and create professional animations? In this step-by-step character animation course, I have helped beginner animators create advanced animations by teaching them how to apply principles of animation to create professional level animations and understand how to effectively use the Moho animation timeline and motion graph. Want to take the course? Use promo code RUN2019 and get the course 50% off. Link is in the description.